Get ready, Friar Faithful. This is the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Philadelphia Phillies in the first game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Phillies, right-hander Zach Wheeler, and for the Padres, right-hander Matt Waldron. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Philly for game 1 of this 3-game set at 3:35 p.m. here in San Diego. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We check in with Mark Grant Mudd joining Jesse Agler on today's radio broadcast. We'll check in with Mudd in just a little bit. Our keys to the game, a full breakdown of this starting pitching matchup, and much, much more to come. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 45-38. They entered the day 1 game out of the National League's final wild card spot. Meanwhile, the Phillies enter 49-35. They entered the day sitting in first place in the NL East, a game and a half up on the New York Mets. The Phillies just won 2 of 3 from the Braves in Atlanta, but that came after they were swept in a 3-game series in Houston to begin last week. Well, the Padres played the rubber game of a 3-game series in Cincinnati yesterday. Let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
We had a scoreless game going to the 4th inning. It was Xander Bogaerts who led off.
And Xander swings, hits it in the air to deep left field. Lux is going back. He will turn to watch. This one gonna go. Xander Bogaerts with a home run to crack open the run column. And the Padres go ahead 1-0 here in the 4th.
The Padres had chances to grow the lead through 5 innings. The Padres were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, but they had a 1-0 lead. Meanwhile, Stephen Kolek was rolling early on. He got through 5 scoreless innings while allowing just a single and a walk. Kolek took the mound for the bottom half of the 6th inning. Padres still leading just 1-0. He allowed a couple of base runners. Mike Shildt took Kolek out, brought in Adrian Morejon to flip around Ellie De La Cruz to the right side.
Pitch, De La Cruz swings, ground ball left side, underneath Iglesias into left field. That'll tie the game as Benson comes in to score. And Ellie De La Cruz, an RBI single. It's 1-1 here in the 6th.
Padres then jump back ahead with an RBI fielder's choice from Jose Iglesias. They led it 2-1. Robert Suarez came in to try to close out a 2-1 game in the 9th inning. A misplay at third base by Tyler Wade started the inning. Suarez then issued a 1-out walk. Spencer Steer dug in.
Suarez delivers. That's muscled on a line into center field. Charged by Merrill. De La Cruz rounding third on his way. Here comes Jackson's throw. It is high. The tag not in time. Had a real shot to get him, but the throw was high. Diaz had to jump up, then come down to try and get the tag on De La Cruz. He did not, and it's 2-2 here in the 9th.
Jose Trevino then singled to load the bases. Will Benson came to the plate, a chance to win it for the Reds.
Suarez ready. Here's the pitch. Benson swings, rips it down the right field line. That is a fair ball. It'll win the game. Lux can walk home, and the Reds will empty the dugout to chase down Will Benson and celebrate between first and second. His 3rd hit of the day is a game winner as the Reds rally for 2 in the bottom of the 9th and come from behind to beat the Padres 3-2.
A really tough one yesterday in Cincinnati. Reds win it 3-2. The walk-off hit for Will Benson. Reds win 2 out of 3 over the weekend in Cincy. And now the Padres trying to bounce back in this series opener in Philadelphia. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can find me on X at SammyLev, SammyLev. Same handle on Instagram. DM's open. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. Let me know who you are and where you're tuned in from. May just give you a shout shout out here on the air. If you want to let me know what a key to today's game is, may just read your key to the game live on the air during our pregame coverage. Let's go out to Philly.
Now, let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Mark Wrench in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Mud, very good to talk to you once again here on the radio side of things. First things first, what can you tell us about the current weather situation in Philadelphia right now?
Well, Sammy, it is good to talk to you. It is 5:40 on the East Coast. 40, that means weather and traffic. And right now, the field is covered. It is not at, let's see, as I speak, there's maybe a little bit of drizzle, but not really noticeable. It is very overcast. And to give you an idea, we can see the downtown skyline, which is a good thing. So that means it's pretty much clear, but cloud covered, overcast. But I think that as of right now, it seems we haven't heard anything. It looks like we're going to get the game on time at 6:35 Eastern.
All right. Very good news to hear. And I like that, Mud. Weather on the 40s. Why not? Before we get to baseball, I got to ask you this. Are you a big Philly cheesesteak guy?
I am, Sam. And the ones that are made in the clubhouse, I know word travels quickly and fast, but I tell you what, the ones that are made in the clubhouse here, I put an order in for Jesse and I and Dave Marcus. They're supposed to be arriving here in about 20 minutes. So I put my order in down there about an hour and a half ago, and they were very, very nice to put it on their order. So we've got cheesesteaks coming. Big fan.
All right. Very, very nice. Look forward to maybe hearing the review of the cheesesteak when we talk to you again later this week. Let's talk a little pitching. Interesting pitching matchup here today. Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres. Will make his 2025 debut in the major leagues. And as we know, Mud, Matt was so important for a while to this rotation last season. As far as the knuckleball, as far as what he does against the very good Phillies lineup, what will you be looking for today from Matt?
Well, I'm looking for pretty much the same way we saw last year. He is stretched out, had 5 starts in El Paso. And you know what? He had the high ERA, but he had one outing, Sam, that was just kind of one of those that's kind of like you wish you could have a mulligan. His last start, 5 runs and 2 2/3. But I think the main thing is that he is healthy. I think the main thing for Matt Waldron, we're going to see pretty much the 38-40% as far as knuckleball usage is concerned. And you know what, the way offense it lacked the last couple of games for San Diego, hopefully, because the Phillies aren't swinging that well, that knuckleball gives them a different look, and the Padres can give some breathing room to Matt Waldron. So, he has stretched out number 2. I think we're going to see the same usage as far as the fastball and his and the knuckleball in his toolbox. Yeah, it should be really interesting. And look, he's somebody who had a really good outing against the Phillies in that ballpark last season. So you're hoping for a little bit of deja vu in that sense. On the mound for the Phillies today, Mud, Zach Wheeler. I mean, bottom line, this guy is one of the best starting pitchers in the National League and all of baseball right now. We'll go through some of the numbers a little bit later. You've had a chance to see Zach Wheeler plenty over the years. What stands out to you about what he does, and what kind of challenge does that present for the Padres offense today? Dominates, dots, locates. He's got that nasty 4-seamer along with the 2-seamer. Sometimes guys are, one or the other is kind of like a show pitch. They just kind of mix it in. But with Wheeler, he has 2 nasty fastballs, the 4-seamer and the 2-seamer. His changeup and slurve, great command. How many times, Sammy, do you have a guy with an off-speed pitch, maybe a slider, sweeper, whatever? They can throw it around the plate, but with intent, like Wheeler, he does it very, very well. So, and he also, you add that along with 95 to 98 velocity. That's really impressive. Yeah. Now, if a guy's a strike thrower like Wheeler, is it going to be one of those games where these guys are going to swing at one of the first 2 pitches? Because you don't want to get 0-2 against this guy. So we'll have to see if the Padres hitters are aggressive against Wheeler. Finally, Mud, let's just touch on Xander Bogaerts here for a moment. Before he came out of yesterday's game, had 3 extra base hits, including the home run. He's batting well over 400 in his last 9 games. What have you seen from the X-Man as of late? One thing about X is that if he's getting a good pitch early, he's going to hack on it. Once again, it goes back to kind of like what I said earlier about Zach Wheeler and the Padres. You don't want to get in a hole, right? And if he does get the 2 strikes, I like the way he uses the whole field, goes the opposite way. I think Xander, if he gets an off-speed pitch in the zone, I think that's his bread and butter right now. He'll take a good fastball the other way. If he's looking for a fastball in, there are times guys cheat and they can pull it. But, hey, fastball away, take it that way. I think a breaking ball in the zone for X is something that could work to his advantage. So that's what I've seen in Xander the last handful of games. Mud, great insight as always. Enjoy the cheesesteaks. Hopefully the rain. Thanks, Sammy. Hopefully the rain stays away, and we'll plan to talk to you and Jesse at what time will it be? 3:25 here in San Diego. Thanks, Mud. All right, and Sammy, just FYI, they are the ground crew is out there, and it looks like they are going to take off the tarp.
All right.
So just the latest update right there.
Good news. Thank you, Mud. That is Mud Grant.
Right, Sammy.
Yes, that is Mark Grant joining us from the broadcast booth in Philadelphia as we get ready for today's game. Again, first pitch right now scheduled for 3:35 here in San Diego. If there's any change to that plan, we will let you know. But like you heard Mud say there, tarp apparently about to come off the field, so that is good news. And hey, until first pitch, whether that's at 3:35, which it is right now, or even later, guess what? We're going to be with you until first pitch in Philadelphia. Padres beginning this 3-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies. It's Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres and Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phillies. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, a little bit later, we tell you who's hot, who's not. We take a look at some headlines from around the major leagues, and we tell you about one important Philly that is back in the Phillies lineup today after missing the last few weeks. All that and more to come on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show right here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 3:35 in Philadelphia. Series opener between the Padres and the Philadelphia Phillies. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant at 3:25. Lot to do between now and then. We'll hear from Mike Shildt in just a moment. Tell you who's hot, who's not. Also take a look at some headlines from around the major leagues all in this segment. Look at the lineup today for the Padres. Padres, it looks like this. Luis Ariz at first base leading off. Manny Machado at third base batting second. Jackson Merrill in center batting third. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field batting cleanup. Gavin Sheets, the DH, batting fifth. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting sixth. Jake Cronenworth at second base batting seventh. Bryce Johnson in left batting eighth. And Martin Maldonado doing the catching and batting ninth. And it will be a tough task today for Maldonado. Why is that? Well, he's got the knuckleballer Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres, making his 2025 debut. And on the other side for the Phillies, one of the better starting pitchers in all of baseball, right-hander Zach Wheeler. With all that in mind, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Matt Waldron going for you today, Mike. What have you heard about how he's been throwing the ball, and any changes in use of the repertoire use or anything else for Matt?
Good to have Matt back. Part of the club last year, carried us actually about this part of the season last year. Picked up a lot of big innings for the All-Star break. Right after the All-Star break was a big part of the reason we were able to get what we got to last year. Unfortunately, the oblique, got him in spring training, back and ready to go. And as far as usage goes, clearly as a knuckleball pitch, he's going to throw it. But he's also has other pitches, so him and Maldy will tag team and see what's working and go get him.
I was concerned, but any difference on his part in terms of pitching in those thin air conditions over in that league versus going back down here? I mean, is it sometimes difficult to evaluate what that knuckleball is actually doing in those thinner air conditions or not?
I think it's probably hard to evaluate that league in general to some level. But I think we know what we have in Matt over the last several years, and we'll evaluate it tonight.
Yeah. You're going up against a guy like Wheeler. He's been especially tough this year, really living on the edges even more than he normally does. From a hitting standpoint, does that mean you have to be even more patient to make sure you don't go after something that might be a pitcher's pitch, or do you maybe get a little less finicky knowing that it's less likely you're going to get a cookie or something?
Yeah, listen, we're excited about the competition today. We're excited about facing a, really good pitcher that, is playoff tested. So relative to, reproach, listen, we're going to be just as stingy as he is. It really comes down to that. Really good pitchers, especially playoff pitchers, are going to be, they don't give you much. That's why those scores are low. And so, ability to make sure we're taking advantage of the few mistakes that he may or may not make, and take good at bats. And then the other thing is we get opportunity to make, we make productive outs too. We were able to move runners appropriately, but the stinginess goes both ways.
Any update on you when you might be throwing it in Darvish?
Yeah, Darvish throwing tomorrow in a simulated game in Lake E.
Has the expectation to increase the workload a little bit with what we did last time? Any expectation around that?
I think we'd like to take it the next step. Through 51 pitches, 51 pitches, if he's progressing like, we'd expect him to get back to us. We're looking at, 460-ish type area, but that's one of the reasons he's getting a controlled environment to be able to do that as opposed to an actual game, which, you never know what's going to happen to some of those issues, those games. Bergie's doing well. The good news is after the fact he took the comebacker, he's healed. He's been able to play catch again, throwing sides again. And it looks like, he'll go and get a game at some point here fairly soon, and then get built back up. Also, the good news, he hadn't been down for a while, so the build-up won't take as long. And he should be available to come back without anything outside of the ordinary when he's eligible to after the 15 days.
Mike, would that be kind of contingent just on how other people are pitching like Matt?
Yeah, I think it's always contingent upon that. But, Matt threw the ball extremely well. Matt's getting an opportunity tonight. We're in the time – it's a big league. As Scan mentioned, big series are all big. Every game's big. So it's, what happens in the big leagues with guys that are continuing to establish themselves is just that. They got to continue to establish themselves. And, it can be somewhat fluid. But we've had Kolek who's taken the ball and literally, not giving it back to anybody else and pitched really well. And, Berger was in that spot before he got getting to that spot where he got hurt. But we do have Darvish that is knocking back on the door.
I feel as though standards come down his own stride. Some of this old stuff.
Yeah, I do. I really believe that. We felt like this, and rightfully you get asked the questions because it's a performance-based game, and some of the performance hadn't been up to his, the standards. And I could comfortably and confidently answer, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so, that we were seeing more consistency in Xander's bat speed, play zone discipline, exit velocity. We just weren't seeing the results, and so. Glad he didn't get discouraged, started showing up and continue to take good at bats and doing the things and driving the ball in the middle part of the field. Now we're seeing the results, and he's feeling he's in a good spot.
What's the saying about him that he's a guy that enjoys posting every day, showing up and just facing the challenge?
It's a wonderful trade. It's a hard trade. Back to Ace's question about starters getting to establish themselves. It's one of the things that does allow you to establish yourself in this league, and then you can play, and you can do other things, and it's also the part of being a real professional, and that's why this guy's been a winning player and been on 2 World Series winning clubs. That he knows the game's hard, he knows the offense isn't going to go his way, but he also knows he's got a responsibility as a professional to show up and go play other aspects of the game. He's got 13 to 14 bags. He's been an excellent base runner. He's played really good defense. And so he's done other things to help us contribute to win, and doesn't allow the other things to affect that, and still show up with a good attitude is what a real winning pro does.
Mike, what do you think is the future of knuckleball?
The future of knuckleball. That's a great question. Because I'm a big, this, Jason, we talked about player development when we do talk, is, I believe a lot of things trickle up, and how players are trained now with max effort, swinging and throwing, especially throwing, is where it's being monetized. So now if everybody's training and successfully throwing harder and spinning with more spin, there's less art to the pitching side of it. And I think pitching is part of the artistic, the knuckleball is part of the artistic aspect of it. So somewhat long answer to your question, I don't see a lot. There's not as much tinkering going on. It's grip it, rip it, it's spin it hard. It's not as much feel or nuance to create. The curveball is kind of going away a little bit more relative to the slider or sweeper or cutter. You don't see as many of those. So I don't know if the knuckleball's got a ton of life, relative to 20 years ago when there was, a handful of guys in the league, because I don't think it's going to be something that people in labs are trying to whip out, the knuckleball and see the efficiency of it. But I do think there's always a place for it.
I mean, we do live in a world where teams are looking to zig when everyone else is zagging. That would definitely be a zig.
That's definitely a zig. And one of the things that, 100 years ago in player development is before this guy got released, something changed from a pitching standpoint. Whether it was an arsenal, whether it was an arm action, you got dropped down. Something got somewhat dramatically changed to exhaust every possibility. And one of those exhaustions are, can this guy throw a knuckleball? And but most of the times the guys play catch with it and mess around with it and then raise their hand and say, I can throw this. So I haven't heard many people say, let's try to see if he can throw a knuckleball. But to that point, I don't know how teachable it is either. That's out of my depth. So it's a good question. Good baseball question.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today inside the Padres dugout. You heard there from Mike a little bit earlier in the pregame press conference. Yu Darvish will pitch in a simulated game tomorrow, so that continues to be positive progress on Yu Darvish. And again, knuckleballer Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres today against right-hander Zach Wheeler on the mound for Philadelphia. Before we continue on, let's quickly pause for station ID on the Padres radio network.
KWFN-FM and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Hey, this is Mike Shildt. You're listening to Padres Baseball on Padres Radio Network.
An Odyssey sports station.
First pitch coming up at 3:35 in Philadelphia. We go out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant at 3:25. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not. on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with a look at the hot category. Xander Bogaerts, 3 extra base hits in yesterday's game, including a home run. He's batting .438 in his last 9 games. Luis Arraez also in the hot category. He has hits in 14 of his past 15 games, batting .323 in that span. In the not category, we take a look at a couple of Padres stars that have got to get it going. Let's begin with Fernando Tatis Jr. He did have a single in each of the final 2 games in Cincinnati. However, he's just 5 for 42 in his last 12 games. That's a 119 average in that span. And I promise you, I'm not trying to pile on here on Fernando, but the Padres need him to get it going. Since the start of May, Fernando Tatis Jr. is now hitting .208 in nearly 200 at-bats with a .671 OPS. I only bring up the numbers to illustrate it's been a long stretch here where Fernando has not played up to the star level we know he can get to, a .671 OPS in nearly his last 200 at-bats. Padres need him to get it going once again as we get into the month of July. Manny Machado had 2 hits on Saturday, but he's just 4 for 31 in the last 8 games. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for this series opener in Philadelphia. Let's go around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Just a few injury updates. The Astros put shortstop Jeremy Pena on the 10-day IL earlier today with a fractured rib. It's a big loss for the Astros. Pena was hitting .322 with 11 home runs, 40 RBIs, and an .867 OPS. He actually ranks second in the majors in WAR at 5.2, according to what website you look at, but he's a great player. He's on the IL with a rib fracture. The A's are activating Shea Langoliers from the IL today. He spent the last 3.5 weeks on the sidelines with a strained left oblique. That's before the A's game against the Tampa Bay Rays today. Finally, the Guardians had to cart shortstop Gabriel Arias off the field yesterday. Kind of a really bad-looking injury. He twisted his left ankle. X-rays of his injured lower leg were negative. He will undergo an MRI today. Important player for the Guardians, and unfortunately, Gabriel Arias taken off the field yesterday. We'll wait for the latest on Arias. And that's a quick look at headlines from around the major leagues. I do want to say one more thing, just Major League Baseball related, and it's just a thought out of my head here that I was thinking about last night. Last night, for the first time in a long time, I had an opportunity to sit down Sunday Night Baseball, Tigers Twins, and watch cover to cover a Tarek Skubal start. He went 7 scoreless innings, struck out 13, and had it been later in the season, had the Tigers not have more than a 10-game lead in their division, I'm sure he could have gone even deeper into the game. You've got to watch Tarek Skubal pitch. I mean, it is really, really rarefied air he's in as far as watching a guy that is just in total command of everything going on the mound. And the swings he was inducing from the Twins yesterday, it really is something. So that's just my piece of advice to you. If you're just a baseball fan, you have got to watch what Tarek Skubal is doing right now. It is mighty, mighty impressive. That was a tremendous performance yesterday on Sunday Night Baseball against the Twins. When we come back, we tell you about one very important Philadelphia Philly that is back in the lineup for the Phillies today. Our keys to the game, much, much more to come. First pitch coming up at 3:35 on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Philly at 3:35 p.m. We go out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant in just under 20 minutes. Our keys to the game coming up in a little bit. We'll also take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup between the knuckleballer Matt Waldron and right-hander Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phillies. First, let's tell you about one very important Philadelphia Philly that is back in the lineup here today.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, Phillies star Bryce Harper had not played since early June, but wouldn't you know it, Bryce Harper is back from the IL today. He is in the Phillies lineup, playing first base and batting third to make room on the 26-man roster. The Phillies designated infielder Buddy Kennedy for assignment, so Bryce Harper is back, and that's certainly good news for the Phillies, not such good news for the Padres as they begin this series. Phillies have scored 4.32 runs per game in his absence, with 2 or fewer runs in 5 of their last 6 games. They were actually averaging quite a bit more than that, more towards 5 runs per game before he went on the IL. Goes without saying, Bryce Harper, very, very important to this lineup, and he's back for the first time since early June. Xander Bogaerts came out of yesterday's game with a cramp in his left quad. He is back in the lineup today after coming out of the game in the 9th inning yesterday and playing shortstop. So that's a look at who's in, who's out. Bryce Harper back for the Phillies. First pitch coming up at 3:35. Let's give you our keys to this series opener.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, Matty Nux. It's a big responsibility, but the Padres could really use the knuckleballer Matt Waldron to show up and perform today. Not just because they're facing a very dangerous, talented Phillies lineup, but also because the Padres don't have a fresh bullpen entering this series. Robert Suarez, Jason Adam, and Adrian Morejon have all pitched in 2 straight days. Now, we know Matt Waldron can be good. Don't forget how important Waldron was to this rotation last year. He had a stretch of 13 starts from mid-May through mid-July where he posted a 2.63 ERA in 13 starts, including a tremendous start against the Phillies. We'll talk about that a little bit later. One matchup to watch today, Bryson Stott for the Phillies. He is 4 for 6 against Waldron in his career. Stott in the lineup today for Philadelphia, playing second base and batting 8th. But Matt Waldron, A, being effective, and B, giving you some length, that would go a long way today. Waldron's got to be effective in order for the Padres to likely win this game. That's key number 1. Key number 2, 4 letters. R-I-S-P. The Padres have scored just 14 runs in their last 5 games, including going 3 for 37 with runners in scoring position in that span. They went 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position yesterday. We talked about it plenty post-game after yesterday's game. In the past 45 games, the Padres are batting a collective 205 with runners in scoring position. And again, not to pile on here, but that is the second worst mark in the major leagues in that span. But here's a reason to believe in the Padres offense when it comes to runners in scoring position. They hit 284 with runners in scoring position in their first 38 games of the season. That was top 5 in the major leagues. So as of late, has been great with RISP? No, but it's in there. Success is in there. Padres showed earlier this season they can get it done. 0 for 13 yesterday. That's not going to cut it. We'll see if the Padres can flip the script as far as runners in scoring position go here today. That's a big key, number 2, to today's series opener. And finally, key number 3, can the Padres prevent Kyle Schwarber from hitting the ball a long way? I bring it up for a few reasons. Kyle Schwarber is batting .252 on the year, 25 home runs, 57 RBIs. He is one of the more prolific home run hitters we have in our game today, and he's swinging the bat well. On the Phillies' last road trip, he hit .300, hit a double, a home run, had 5 walks. He's also, how about this, reached base safely in each of his last 19 games against the Padres, going back to 2022, with 11 home runs, 22 RBIs, and 16 walks in 90 plate appearances. It always seems like Kyle Schwarber finds a way to hurt the Padres. Can the Padres slow him down today? That's key number 3, and that's a look at our keys to today's game. First pitch coming up at 3:35 as the Padres continue this 6-game road trip to Philadelphia. Padres dropping 2 out of 3 against the Cincinnati Reds to begin this trip. Let's take a wider look at the major leagues as we go through the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Padres playing in the Eastern time zone, so everything else coming up a little bit later on. Cardinals and the Pirates in Pittsburgh at 3:40. Andrew Heaney on the mound for Pittsburgh. Eric Fetty on the mound for St. Louis. Yankees and the Blue Jays in Toronto at 4:07. Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees against Blue Jays righty Max Scherzer. Reds and the Red Sox at 4:10 at Fenway Park. Chase Burns on the mound for Cincinnati, making his second major league start. Very, very highly touted right-handed prospect for the Reds against left-hander Garrett Crochet on the mound for the Red Sox. A's and the Rays in Tampa Bay at 4:35. Drew Rasmussen on the mound for the Rays, and for the A's is left-hander Jacob Lopez. Orioles and the Rangers in Arlington at 5:05. Patrick Corbin on the mound for Texas. It's Trevor Rogers on the mound for Baltimore. Royals and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. Michael Wacha, who joined us on the pregame coverage last week, on the mound for Kansas City. George Kirby on the mound for Seattle. And finally, later on this evening, 6:40 in Arizona, Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants as they visit the Arizona Diamondbacks in the desert. Ryan Nelson will take the hill for Arizona. And that's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Monday across the major leagues. When we come back, we tell you what to watch for in today's game. I've got an interesting note about the Phillies leadoff man. We'll also have a full breakdown, a lot of information on Zach Wheeler and Matt Waldron, our starting pitching matchup here tonight. We also tell you about one very popular, very promising Padres prospect. A little news on Leo DeVries. Much more to do on our pregame coverage. First pitch coming up at 3:35 in Philadelphia, right here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant at 3:25. First pitch coming up at 3:35 in Philadelphia as the Padres begin this three-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phillies. Matt Waldron, the knuckleballer, on the mound for the Padres. We'll have much more on that pitching matchup coming up in just a moment. Couple of notes for you before we tell you what to watch for. Manny Machado enters today's game with 355 career home runs, 1,993 career hits. He's only 7 away from that 2,000 mark. So we'll see if Manny can achieve it. He would have to have a really good series in Philadelphia to get there. And if not, you would, I don't want to assume anything, but you would say there is a very good chance he could hit 2,000 in this upcoming homestand beginning on Friday against the Texas Rangers. So keep an eye on that. Manny now 7 hits away from 2,000 in his career. Padres top prospect Leo DeVries, it was announced in the last couple of days, he will participate in the MLB All-Star Futures game on July 12th, part of the All-Star festivities in Atlanta. Padres number 1 prospect, the number 3 prospect in all the minor leagues. He's only 18 years old. He's the youngest player at high A single A, highest ranked prospect selected for the Futures game. So that'll be something to watch for as far as the All-Star festivities in Atlanta coming up later on. Well, not this month, but next month in the month of July, final day of June. Speaking of it being the final day of June, that's the topic of our What to Watch For.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
Final day of June. What does that mean? Well, could mean a lot of things, but it does mean it is Philly shortstop Trey Turner's birthday. So you might be wondering, okay, well, I'm a Padres fan. What am I going to wish him a happy birthday as he plays my team? Well, no, he's going to turn 32 today. The reason I bring it up, on his birthday, he's 10 for 25, hitting 406 career games on his birthday. Oh, by the way, he hit for the cycle on his birthday in 2021. He's also stolen 4 bases on his birthday, June 30th. His National League ranks entering today. He leads the National League in hits, in multi-hit games. He's 4th in Fangraphs WAR. He's tied for 5th in stolen bases, top 10 in batting average and runs scored. Really good player. No surprise there with Trey Turner. But what does he do on his birthday? Can the Padres prevent him from having a great birthday today against them? That's what to watch for in today's game. Like I said, June 30th. The subject of our What to Watch For segment. Let's preview our starting pitching matchup between Zach Wheeler and Matt Waldron.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Zach Wheeler on the mound for Philadelphia, 35 years old. He's having a Cy Young caliber type of season. 7-3, a 2.45 ERA, 16 starts, 126 strikeouts in 99 innings. Enters today with the second lowest ERA in the NL, ranked 2nd in strikeouts. Since May 7th, Wheeler has the 3rd lowest ERA in the major leagues at 1.50. That's over a span of 8 starts. He's been awesome this month. He's allowed only 2 earned runs in 23 innings. By the way, his 4 opponents this month, the Cubs, Blue Jays, Mets, and Astros, all teams that currently hold a playoff spot. Wheeler has been very, very good in his career against the Padres. A 1.94 ERA in 11 career starts against San Diego. That includes a pair of great starts against them in the 2022 NLCS. On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Matt Waldron. Waldron dealt with an oblique injury during spring training. That kept him off a mound in a real game until mid-May. Then he started rehabbing, ended up making 2 starts at AA, 5 starts at AAA, a 5.02 ERA between double and AAA. But as we know, take the numbers in the hitter-friendly Pacific Coast League with a grain of salt. He seems close to fully built up. He threw as many as 90 pitches earlier this month. Waldron was terrific in Philadelphia last year, allowed just 1 run in 7 innings. He also faced the Phillies in 2023 in a relief appearance, gave up 3 earned runs on 8 hits. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper each have a home run against them. So keep an eye on those two guys against Waldron today. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup, the veteran right-hander Zach Wheeler against the knuckleballer Matt Waldron. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Well, the Padres had a tough loss yesterday to wrap up the series in Cincinnati. Padres enter the day on the outside looking in as far as the National League's wild card picture. So as we creep towards the All-Star break, Padres trying to get it going, looking for a series opening win in Philly. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Mark Grant join you from Philadelphia. They have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.